Welcome to How to Stand Out in Your Niche by telling your personal story. You're probably here because you want to identify your unique story, figure out how to put it into words, connect with people who are like-minded to you, get to know yourself on a deeper level, and grow an aligned and authentic audience. You don't have to have a creative writing degree. I certainly don't have lived a perfect life, be super popular, have everything figured out, or even know exactly what your story is to get started in sharing your story. If I've learned anything through sharing my story, it's really that everyone just wants real connection. And our words are actually vibrations that have the power to connect us on a soul level and to inspire us to make changes in our lives or see things differently and with new perspective. So my story is that I guess 9 years ago, I was applying to get into my dietetic internship to become a dietitian. And this was the final step after several year process of staying up all night every night studying and like transferring schools from the place that I loved with all of my friends at the beach to App State so that I could pursue this degree because the school that I was living at before, they didn't have a dietetic program. So I had given up everything, spent several years just studying, and it got to the moment where I was graduating with my undergraduate degree and I was going to find out if I got into the dietetic internship. And everything was on the line. I was hanging out with my friends at the bar, and it was the middle of the day. We just finished our graduation, and we were waiting to see the results because this wasn't like you get it in the mail or you get a email at some point. This was a situation where it was a match process. It was very competitive, and you only get into one school, and you find out on Tuesday at 12 p.m. if you got in or not. And so it's Tuesday, and we're hanging out, and my friends are all talking and hanging out. And I just remember, like, I wasn't paying, like, I could not tell you what the conversation was. I can't tell you what people were talking about because I was just in my head, like, thinking about my future and if I got this or not. And then lo and behold, at that time, I got the results that I did not get matched with the program. And so everything I'd worked up to for several years felt like it was worthless. I felt like I had no future. I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I begrudgingly packed my backpack and booked a one-way ticket to Paris. And from there, I ended up traveling around the globe and getting to see so many amazing things and spent 6 months doing that. And when I came back, I started Nova Yoga, which is my global yoga brand that helps me to, or helps everyone to go on retreats and relax and also go through yoga teacher trainings and also like really anything else that is inspiring to me, I get to do because of that. And that is the reason that I offer all of this stuff. And now I get to help other people who want to build a similar thing or do a similar thing as well. And so basically, not getting what I thought I wanted, that devastating moment ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because I live with it's such creative freedom now. I get to offer things like this that just light me up and every day and have just a completely different life than I would have if I got into that program and just followed the steps of that. And so that's my story. And I'm going to share with you how I just kind of phrased that for you in this session together. So we're going to look first at what your niche is or your mission, and then we're going to put it into words and how, like a little story framework, and then talk about how you can share it and why you should share it. So we're going to start with your niche. If you don't already have a paper and pen out, go ahead and pull out that. And I'm going to ask you some questions and you'll have about, it's going to be like rapid fire. So you're going to have about 30 seconds with each question. And I want you to just think about the first thing that comes to mind and write that down without overthinking it. So it's intentionally going to move a little quick. So go ahead and get ready and we'll begin. The first question is, What is a consistent theme in your life? What is a consistent theme in your life? All right, next question. What problems do you care about the most? What problems do you care about the most? Next question. What do people come to you for advice for? What do people come to you for advice for? What qualities about yourself are you most proud of? What qualities about yourself are you most proud of? What do you want people who work with you to say about you after? What do you want people who work with you to say about you after? And if you don't have a business, like it can also be your friend group or your family or your community. Okay, next question. How do you define your success? How do you define your success? All right, next question. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for? All right, now we're going to look at creating a mission statement for you. It's your XY statement. And generally, this goes with the flow of I help people blank goal by blank method. So I help people with a particular goal by what method? And I'll share my mission example is I help people expand into their life purpose and create lasting community. by guiding them to see new possibilities. And you want it to be like vague enough that your mission can accommodate like everything that you do. So if you are a business owner and you want to write a book or have a podcast or launch a new group program or a training, all of those things would still apply to like your main core mission. This is like the why behind you, um, what you do and who you are. Okay, cool. I hope this is resonating. So now that we kind of talked about what your mission is, the why, let's talk about what you're actually going to talk about, your actual story, when you decide to share. So I like to call these golden moments, moments of transformation or inspiration. For this one, think of 3 defining moments that changed your living reality. So 3 moments when life changed for you. This could be meeting somebody new, having a change in your health, trying something new, like a new hobby, being let go from a job. For me, it was not getting my dietetic internship. So list 3 defining moments that changed your living reality. I'll give you another 30 seconds for that one. All right. So write out a memory that you have from one of these moments. And if you do have a business, maybe reflect on one of those moments that relates to what you do today and what your brand is. So for me, with yoga, it could be the first time I attended a yoga class, or signed up for yoga teacher training, or first time I hired a coach, something like that. Or maybe it's something like totally random. Because when I think of those moments, um, I guess those are the different moments. And then within those moments, what were moments? So um, I'm thinking of like in my first yoga teacher training, there were bats in our house and how scary that was. And there's like a whole story around that. And many little tiny moments like that, just reflecting back. All right, and moving on. Another way that you can find a something to create a story with or to reflect upon a memory that you have is to just look around your room, like look around your house, maybe the space that you're in right now, and just find an item that is meaningful to you. Like chances are, if you have stuff in your house, it's because something like drew you to it. It has some sort of meaning to you to keep it. And reflecting on what that item is, the memory attached to it. Um, why did you acquire this item? And how did you end up acquiring this item? Maybe who are you with when you acquired it? So you have your vision of like what your mission is. You're starting to put that together. We're doing a lot today. And then you're also looking at what what you can source your inspiration for your stories from. We are looking at big moments potentially, but also anything can become a story. And once you start thinking in terms of like, I'm telling a story, I'm telling and I'm sharing from my heart about my experiences, then you're actually going to have more stories come to you. They're going to feel you and like come to you and move through you in a way that they might not have before you decided that you were somebody who was going to share a story. And this is such a beautiful opportunity because our so much of our lived experience is our own narration of our lives and how we reflect back on the past or reflect on our hopes for the future. And when we take a moment to reflect on our past and think of, it's going to make more sense in a minute, but ways that we learned from or grew from certain experiences, we can actually make a lot of peace with our past and we can promote ourselves into a more positive future just by doing this exercise. So that's why I love this so much because it's not just about, um, being able to like grow your brand and your niche, but actually it's very healing on an individual level too. And the more that you share your story, there's a saying that I really like, which is that healing happens in the presence of an empathic witness. That is so powerful. And it means that when you share your story authentically from your heart, you're not only igniting someone else to feel closer to you, to feel inspired, to feel transformed, but you're also inviting in a window to be seen. And then through being seen, parts of you start to heal that past or that experience in a way that you can step more fully into your full self. So now we're going to actually talk about the story framework and how to put these experiences down in a way that makes sense, that is engaging, and it's really simple. Like once you look at it, you're going to be like, oh, I knew this already, but it's nice to just be reminded. So common mistakes with storytelling that I see are people that are not sharing at all because they're afraid of being misunderstood or they don't know where to get started. That was definitely me for a long time. I felt like even if I had something meaningful that happened in my life, like I didn't feel like I knew how to put it into words in a way that it would be meaningful to somebody else. And so it just prevented me from ever sharing for a long time. And sometimes too, like the story that we have. So like when I got denied from my dietetic internship, and even when I was traveling the world for 6 months and like being inspired, I didn't know that that was my story playing out. I didn't know during that time that something really beautiful was coming after that. And so you might not feel like you're in your story now, but maybe after this, you're going to start to see and reflect back and notice like what is transpiring for you. Skipping the messy middle part, which is really where the connection happens. So sometimes you'll see like, maybe just imagine like you see a post of someone who's like, I am doing so successful. I'm doing amazingly well. My business just launched a new product and we're so excited and everything is perfect. Versus seeing someone who's shares something along the lines of, if you told me that a year ago I'd be here today, I would have never believed you. I poured my heart into this. I was working 12-hour shifts and I was in rehab for months and then now I'm here and it's just like this amazing accomplishment that I feel like I went through so much to get to this point. So yeah. And then often sometimes people have too much focus on information and not enough on emotion. We'll get into that more too. Not having a structure or a flow to the story, and then sharing without a clear takeaway. So just kind of introducing something without like having it wrap up. So, elements for story success. These are the three things that you need to have a successful story. And that story needs to include the stage. You need to articulate and paint the picture for the reader of where they are, so they can really feel it and be there with you rather than just like putting out information without context. So that's setting the stage. And then you need tension. So highlighting that it might be that messy middle part, but the space between like where you want to go and where you are now or what the current circumstance is. And then the last one is transformation. So what is the takeaway from the story? How did you learn? How did you grow? Um, what transpired from this circumstance? So first thing is setting the stage. You want to paint that picture for your audience. You really want to describe the senses in a thorough way. Um, any sense is going to be positive for this. You can use interoception, so like the ability to go inside and like notice how you feel, your emotions, notice like any sensations in the body, and then articulate those as well. And then you also want to drop them into the action. So um, rather than having like a whole, you ever get on that like recipe website and you're like, I want the recipe. And then it starts off with like, I grew up in a small farm in Texas. My grandfather's old tradition or something, and you're just like, okay, I gotta get gotta get to the stuff I want. So maybe some of you love that. I don't know. To each their own, but it can be impactful to drop them into the action of what's happening in a way that's also including the senses and emotions. Awesome. So here's an example of what to do versus like what you might end up doing if you're not thinking about it. So 1 year ago, giving a nice specific time frame that helps people visualize it, I received news that would change everything. The crisp autumn air tickled my nose as leaves crunched under my boots. So using at least two senses, right? Like the crisp autumn air, so cold touch, and then the sound of leaves crunching puts me in this like visual that it's fall. Versus I once learned something that made me different. It was autumn. Right? So you see the difference there, hopefully. And then you want to articulate the tension, which again is that separation between what you want and what's happening. What is the problem? Really name it, and then also hint at and describe the feeling of hope or like why it matters to you, what you were holding on to. And that's kind of like your hook that keeps people engaged with like what you're sharing with them. And then you want to name the feelings that you have around all of those circumstances. So really putting it into words, the feelings, and especially the feelings of tension, of like something is just outside of my grip and I'm reaching for it. I want this. Hopefully you're starting to see like the story that I shared at the beginning with kind of following this framework. So here's an example. The results of my exam should have come in earlier that week. As the days passed, minutes felt like hours as I anxiously awaited the results. Would I be able to graduate this year? My mind kept returning to worry. Versus the results for my exam had not come in yet. I need to pass that class to graduate. So you can see how like articulating the feelings, the days passing like uh, minutes felt like hours or whatever. It's like it's showing the buildup of that sensation of waiting, of tension, and you feel more connected. And then the last one is ending with transformation. So, what was the moral or the lesson of the story? What did you take away from this experience? And really explain that or lay it out. I don't think every story needs like a moral of the story. Like sometimes it's just really powerful to share, but I also would be cautious to share something that you feel like you haven't actually resolved in yourself. allow your sharing to come from a place of like reflection and like genuinely wanting to share the message that came through what you learned. So, for example, it was in that moment I had an epiphany. It didn't matter what happened with my test results. My happiness was my choice. Worrying about the results was not going to change them. And that's the day I decided to stop worrying about things I can't control. It's like a little dramatic for this, but like it's trying to make the point. So the other option could just be like, it would be cool if I graduated. If not, life could be ruined. I didn't really learn anything from this. I think it's just a tradition that we like the story when the hero wins. We like that happy ending. Um, and it also feels good for you to share in that way. So just kind of revisiting the story that I shared, my situation was that I was like waiting to see if I got into school. I didn't. I was devastated, but then it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. Right. All right. So now, finally, we'll talk about how to share your story, and why you should share your story. Sharing your story, it allows you to build more authentic connection. So I've shared things with people who know me really well and on a deep level, but were so moved because they didn't know this thing about me. So it can take you deeper into the relationships that you already have. I've read poems that made me cry and shared them with other people, and then that made them cry. And it's like, yeah, so words are really, really powerful. They're vibrations. They actually have the power to like change us, and connect us on that deeper, deeper level. And you can inspire someone else. So you might share something that somebody resonates with, and it makes them want to change their lives. A lot of times I've shared that I've quit drinking 3 years ago, and I've had several people approach me that I don't even really know. They're like, "Oh, I just heard you say that one time, and now I don't drink anymore." And I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing. I never expected that that could have that kind of impact, but it can." So you can inspire somebody to transform themselves, and to share themselves. Like if maybe they have a similar story and seeing you share it, now they have that opportunity to share. And again, healing happens in the presence of an empathic witness. So you're giving other people the opportunity to be more connected. It can increase your visibility, makes you stand out in your niche because people are going to like know what you stand for and what you stand about. So always drawing it back to your mission is also helpful, like your storytelling if you're doing this for your brand, specifically. And then also it's going to help you to attract your most aligned clients. So if somebody sees that, especially so if somebody has been watching you and sees themselves in you, their challenges are the same challenges that you've had and you've overcome. And they're like, wow, look at where they are now. They're going to be so inspired to work with you. It's like just a no-brainer at that point when you've been able to share and connect through your story. That is going to pull people that are really aligned and actually truthfully can really do well in working with you because of that trust that's also built. So, some reasons. You might feel resistance to sharing. I totally understand this, been there. I know a lot of people feel this way, so we'll just talk about it. You might have a fear of being judged or misunderstood. And another way that you can think about that, sort of reframing that resistance would be, would you have judged somebody who shared the same thing? You might feel like you're not a good writer, but the only way you're going to get better is by practicing. And you might not know where to get started. I like to say that the story comes when you decide to share. For me, it's like sometimes I sit down and say, like, I want to share. What do I want to share? And then when I do that, that's when the story hits me. It's not like the story always comes first. Sometimes it's just that sentiment of the story, what you learned, what your growth was, what you experienced, and like wanting to share that will bring the story into you when you sit down and decide that you're going to do it. I don't want to be in the spotlight. Well, I like the visual of and for speakers and people sharing stories that rather than imagining yourself in the spotlight, imagine yourself as a lighthouse. And you're there, and your words are there, and your sharing is there with the purpose of lighting the way for somebody else. And that also helps take the pressure off of you, like if you feel fearful, to just like redirect your focus outside of yourself. And you might think somebody might not like your story, but there's somebody that really needs to hear your story. There's somebody that is going to be lit up and connected to you through your story. So just some ways to think about it. You can share your story in person in conversations. This can be something you just do with your friends, or it can be in a bigger setting with, like, if you have clients that you work with in person. I started really sharing vulnerably when I started teaching yoga. And if I just had a crazy day, like if my car got a flat tire on the way there, I would come in and be like, so this is what I learned about the feelings that came up today. And like, let's talk about how if you maybe you're feeling that today, this yoga practice is going to help you. So things like that you can do in your business. You can also share on social media. I think stories that are on like a carousel slide on Instagram, so the ones where you have multiple pictures and you can swipe through them. People like to read like little bits. So rather than having like a huge paragraph, just small bits that they can kind of slide through is nice. You can also put this on your website if you have a website. In your About Me section, include your story, your personal story of transformation, or even little snippets of your story throughout other pages. Um, and then maybe even you feel like, oh my gosh, I have a great story. I'm so lit up right now. And you could become a keynote speaker and actually share this and get paid to share your story if you wanted to. Especially if you're a woman, there's like not enough women speakers out there doing these things. So some considerations, you don't want to share just one time and then run away and like never share again. Keep sharing regularly. You can start small, start with something that doesn't maybe feel so vulnerable and scary, but you get to practice that flow, because once you practice it, it just comes very naturally. And then just know that like anything can become a story too. You're going to start, now that you're in this class and you've been sitting here absorbing this information, you're going to start seeing stories everywhere in your life popping up. Like you could make a story about how you attended a webinar about story writing. And stories can evolve. So as you grow, things can change as you reflect back. And so yeah, making space for that. Ways to integrate this into your business, if you have one, you can use your story to build relationships, so inspiring and building trust. You're also using your story to help invite your client to reflect or transform themselves. And you could also use them for engagement. So if you just want to share a story and then ask people to engage with it by like replying, sharing their own experiences if they have anything similar, or answer a question if you have one. And then you can also include your story with a call to action. It's called a CTA, where you um, engage somebody to like do something with you. So like whether it's like, hey, I wrote this blog, here's a story, and go read the blog to learn more. Or maybe I have a workshop on this story that relates to the story. So here's the story. If you want to learn more, check out this workshop, or whatever it may be. So just a few tips for your storytelling before we wrap up. You can start small. You don't have to go into like biggest story ever right away. But also if you feel it, like go for it while you're feeling inspired and open and ready. And stay consistent, be authentic. Like if you share, you want to really mean everything that you say. I think that the words really are vibrations, and I think it can be felt. And the more authentic and aligned you are in your heart from the words that you're writing or speaking, like the more they're going to resonate with people, the more powerful they are. Always tie your story back to your mission if you're doing this in the brand space. And remember to be a lighthouse, light out, shining the way for other people and sharing that from a place of giving. So that was your storytelling basics. So hopefully you feel a little bit more confident with your niche or your mission, have some things to think about, weigh the three-part process for putting it into a story, and then why and where you can connect through sharing your story. This was really fun. Thank you all. If you are ready for more, I have a personalized one-on-one coaching program called the Entrepreneur Accelerator. So if you are in the brand space and you want extra support, if you want to have that feeling of a partner in your business, but also a mentor that can help you find more clarity and strategy with everything that you're doing, and find new ways to amplify your business, then this is a really good offer. Whether you're already have a business or you're launching a business and you want to grow into that. And there's a three-step process that we go through, which is the magnetic offer protocol. This is where we look at what your offers are. We create a really good offer suite to make sure that you can reach people and help them at very many different levels. You have the brand enhancement method, which is where we talk about your messaging. This is where we would plug in your brand story and help you connect through that way and your brand pillars. And then the strategic plan, which is just the strategy and the roadmap for everything that comes together to be successful. So that's the Entrepreneur Accelerator. You can do a free consult with me. I can drop a link in the chat if you want to check that out and see. I'll drop it in a minute. But that will be 2 one-on-one coaching calls per month, plus continued support between sessions via email and Telegram. And when you do this, you're going to get access to the master's course, which starts on January 28th. It's a Tuesday. We're going to meet Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern time, which is this time. So if you're on this call, it's probably a good time for you. And that's going to be 5 weeks long. And this is really great too if you're just getting started, because we're going to go through all those same areas of like figuring out your message and your offers and your strategy overall. But on this one, you're also going to learn how, and you're going to walk away with the first plan for your first event or retreat. So you're going to have everything on how to plan, prep, and host an event or a retreat. And you're going to do that in the course as well. So that is going to come with the one-on-one personalized coaching. So if you're interested in that, you get both anyway. And today, or not today, but for the next 72 hours, you can get a bonus 90-minute one-on-one session intensive with me if you sign up for either of those. So you can check that out on my website. I'm going to put it in the chat now. And then we're going to switch to Q&A. So I'd love to also hear any of the mission statements that you all have come up with. All right.